So, how does that make you feel when they say those things? You know, you have to talk to me if I'm going to help you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Fun Friday, and also Happy National School Counselors Week. This week's question is centered around just that, around our school counselors, and in appreciation for all that they do for us. So I went around and I asked students if they knew who their counselor was and what a common question they think that their counselors answer all the time. Let's take a listen. Name of your school counselor?
Mrs. Kraus.
Good. And what do you think is a question that Mrs. Kraus asks people a lot?
What are our future plans after high school?
Can you tell me the name of your school counselor?
Mrs. Kraus.
Yeah, and can you tell us what you think a question is that Mrs. Kraus asks people a lot?
So basically, one question is basically like, what is your future career choice of helping you find the career you want, get you to the right college, and get you prepared for the career choice you want to make?
Excellent. Know the name of your school counselor?
No.
You don't know? Mrs. Stevens?
Oh yeah, Stevens.
Yeah, Mrs. Stevens. What is a question that you imagine a counselor asking people a lot?
How is your grades and how are your teachers and things treating you?
Do you know who your counselor is?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Miss Stevens.
Okay. What do you think is a question that Mrs. Stevens asks people a lot?
Are you okay?
Know who your counselor is?
Miss Stevens.
Yeah. And what do you think is a question that Mrs. Stevens gets, that a question that she asks people a lot?
Like how their day is going maybe.
Do you know who your counselor is?
Mrs. Stevens.
And what's a question you think Mrs. Stevens asks a lot in her job?
How are you doing?
Do you know who your counselor is?
No, not really.
What do you think is a question that a counselor asks a lot?
I don't know. Really don't know.
Do you know who your counselor is? Very good. And what do you think is a question that a counselor asks a lot? Do you know who your counselor is?
I forgot her name, but yes.
And what's a question that you think a counselor asks people a lot?
Has there been anything going on?
Know the name of your counselor.
It's Mrs. Hutchinson.
Yeah. And then what do you think is a question that Mrs. Hutchinson asks people a lot?
Do you need help with something?
Do you know who your counselor is?
Miss Stevens.
Yeah. And what's a question you think a counselor asks a lot?
Well, to me, how are you feeling?
Yeah. You know the name of your counselor.
Yes.
Who is it?
Miss Stevens.
And tell me a question you think that Mrs. Stevens, as a counselor, asks a lot.
Are you keeping your grades up?
Hey, not bad, kids. But let's find out from the counselors the answers to those questions from themselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm Carrie Kraus, and I am the junior and senior high school counselor.
My name is Brooklyn Stevens, and I'm the 8th, 9th, and 10th grade counselor.
I'm Dean Hutchinson, and I'm the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade counselor.
Thanks. So we know that counselors meet with students and give them advice on how to handle situations at school and in their personal life. Tell us about some of the things in addition to that you do for the school.
I talk a lot about filing your FAFSA, applying for college and tech schools, and checking on students and their grades and their credits. Credits are a big deal in high school.
I talk with students a lot about planning for high school, 4-year plans, what classes do you want to take, and like Carrie said, are you failing any classes?
I do classroom lessons once a month for each grade. And we talk about a bunch of different things, bullying, self-esteem, things that are important to the kids. I also check in with students who might need someone to talk to, do some scheduling, whatever we need.
It's good, good. So what is, we'll start with Mrs. Hutchinson over here and work our way back the other way. What's something that you find yourself saying to students a lot?
I don't know. Maybe like, how are you doing today? What made you want to come in today? Maybe, did you know you're failing in class? Or how are your grades? That kind of stuff.
I would say I ask, how's your day going? And did you know you're failing that class?
And I would like to ask all the seniors out there, have you filed your FAFSA?
Thank you all very much. Thanks for doing Fun Friday with us, and thanks for all you do.
No problem.
Thanks to everybody who participated in this week's video, and a special thanks to Mrs. Stevens, Mrs. Hutchinson, and Mrs. Kraus, who worked their tails off to get stuff done around here every day. Thanks everybody who is watching this video. Remember to make comments down below, and if you have questions or you want to give me some feedback, send me an email, or you can send me a message on Twitter @CaseyMBailey. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday.